Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. So this is a more comprehensive guide on how I navigate the Skull Caverns, my personal gearing method, and how I use all of the synergy to maximize my efficiency and profitability and just having fun blowing stuff up and moving really fast, just blowing through the Skull Caverns. So at first I'm just going to kind of run through it and narrate how everything's synergizing and just show you all the action. And then whoever wants to stick around and understand how everything works on a mechanical level with more detailed explanation, there will be that towards the end of the video. So yeah, let me set up my inventory. It's Sunday, so I'm going to go to the Desert Trader and stock up on supplies from them. If you have the Statue of Blessings, you'll want to pop that every day before you go into the Skull Caverns. You'll get a random buff and it's usually pretty beneficial, especially if it's the critical chance one, or the luck, or the speed one, or the infinite energy. They're all really useful except for like the prismatic butterfly, which is kind of just unlucky. Now you'll always want the dwarf statue. It's always going to have something beneficial, but in my opinion, the best one is the greater chance to find ladders or the increased chance to find coal if you're running low on coal, because you need coal for everything in this game. I'm also going to run to the mines real quick and grab some supplies from the mines. Whoops, probably want to take my horse, not just summon it and walk away from it. If you have the funds, you can stock up on life elixirs and bombs. I'm going to top off with probably 75 of these bad boys. Oh, okay, or 81. About 100 regular bombs. And then it's off to the desert. Okay, and I'm going to stock up on supplies. I do it pretty much every Sunday or every other Sunday. I'm just going to grab 100 warp totems just to be fully stocked up. And then all the rubies you get from running caverns, that's just easy spicy eel, which is great, speed and luck. And then lastly, it's Sunday, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some staircases here. So this is what I would consider an optimal inventory. I have all infinity weapons, 2 with Crusader, 1 with Bug Killer. You'll see why. I'm going to go ahead and pop an espresso out here and just grab my speed buff. So yeah, let's watch it in action. I'm going to kind of explain as I go. So this doesn't look, there's not much going on here, so I'm just going to skip. Staircase is used to skip. This is a little bit more of an involved room, so we'll probably fight here. There's a bug, switch to my bug weapon, kill the bug. For the bug meat, I'll be able to use that on magic bait with radioactive ore. Look at my ice trinket saving my butt left and right. And then when in a situation like this, I don't have to worry about slime so much because I have the slime charmer ring. Prevents all damage from slimes. So it's nice to be able to just ignore slime in every room. Ice trinket saved my butt there. Froze that guy. Whenever you're being chased down, you're going to want to use your gavel to get them off you without having to turn back around. So it just came back up. So like that, you get to attack without having to face your enemy, and it can save you from taking extra damage. So I get my gavel again. I'm going to let this guy nope, my thing's locking him down. So he's locked down and he opened a shaft, but I do want this iron ore. So I'm going to take this shaft here. I don't like this room. There's really nothing that I see going on. If I see some ruby or something, I may stop, or if I see a shaft or a ladder, I'll take it. But yeah, here's a mummy room. So I have Crusader enchants on my blade and gavel. So this lets me kill mummies, which are very profitable without using bombs, and it lets me kill them fast. Just like that. Same for Ghost. Just hit constant red numbers on them. They drop a lot of geodes as well. I'm gonna kill this guy by some rocks with my napalm ring. Helps me mine the area out too. We got a ladder up there, so I'm gonna kill this guy, get the speed buff, and just run back up to the ladder from the Savage Ring. Here's where you drop a bomb. You have a bunch of gold ore in one spot. So a strategically placed bomb, and it unlocked the ladder. Perfect. Treasure room. Boom. Not the best treasure. I'm actually gonna burn that. So we keep it moving. We found another mummy room. These are great. Can mine these with my napalm ring and killing mummies at the same time. We got a ladder at the top here. And we got a shaft here in the middle. So that's where we're gonna run to after we clear all the mummies. They drop a lot of solar essence and cloth. That's already 1K. 2.5K, it starts to add up really quick, so it's awesome. Everything's pretty much dead, so we're just going to go to the shaft, jump down. We are low on health, so I'm going to spam C. Use my spicy eel, and this room doesn't look fun, so we're skipping it. This has a little bit more action in it, so let's kill this bug with a bug killer jagger and switch back to kill this guy. We have a slime tower. We're going to dodge the guys that jump off them so we don't get the debuff. And we'll just go ahead and take these ladders down. Need some diamond. Iron's good because you can make bombs out of it. And iron ore is just good to have plenty of. Can't reach that guy, so I switch to my gavel to hit him. I'm going to carve my way in here while clearing the path from the ring explosion, which is very nice. Look, we have ruby. That pays for more spicy eel. Drop a bomb on the iridium ore so it mines fast since there's no enemies to blow up next to it. Grab the iridium ore, check over here. I'm going to go ahead and grab this iron ore and jump down the ladder. Another treasure room. So yeah, that pretty much covers everything. And yeah, you pretty much rinse and repeat and find your own pace. Try to get deeper into the caverns because that's where you're going to find really ore dense areas with a lot of profitability, I guess. Gold ore, iridium ore, etc. So yeah, that's everything in action. How the rings synergize with each other. How I use the ice rod trinket. And how I use like the burst of speed and napalm ring to quickly clear rooms. So now let's get into a more detailed explanation if you feel like sticking around and listening to it, and really understanding how everything works and why I'm picking what I'm picking for my gear setup. This is more so to look at optimizing your build, prioritizing profitability, and just being really efficient in the Skull Caverns overall. There are many working parts to this whole guide, and I'm going to try to organize them the best I can in order to help you in the simplest and most effective way. All right, so let's get started. The minimum requirement for any of this to really work together is for you to have all of your skills maxed out and at least one mastery point spent in combat. This will unlock the ability to receive trinkets as drops and actually use those trinkets. There are many powerful trinkets, but I feel like the most useful one is the ice rod, but we will get into that in a few minutes. So the two passives I picked were fighter and brute because it just gives you straight up damage. You don't have to question it. You don't have to rely on luck. You just do more damage. What I typed out here was that a crit build relies on specific itemization. So you have to spend a lot of item slots on prioritizing crit chance or increasing your crit chance on top of what I would call a desperado build, which is one of the passives that help with crit. Because of the crit specific items taking up a lot of your spots, it really leaves a lot of utility you would get from other rings and gear enchantments off the table. So basically you'll do essentially the same amount of damage if and when you crit, and then you won't be able to have things like a napalm ring or a savage ring, which will give you a massive speed buff. These high utility rings are what really help with clearing rooms quickly. So yeah, you lose a lot of utility at the cost of unpredictable damage. You might as well just have more damage overall and the utility of movement speed, clearing rocks with enemy explosions, etc. Or even survivability, so like a vampiric ring with an energy siphon ring, something like that. So let's look at rings. What rings do I take? Well, when you unlock the Dwarven Forge, you can spend some farmed resources to actually combine rings. Personally, I think the Iridium Band already has a lot of effects on it, but that counts as one ring. So be sure to at least combine that into one of the rings that you create. I went with Iridium Band with a Slime Charmer ring. This is because when I reach a room that is very overwhelming, I do not have to worry about slimes. They literally do no damage to you with a Slime Charmer ring. They jump on you and stuff, but they don't do anything. The only thing the only thing you're still affected by is the totem slimes. They're like stacked up on each other. And when you smack one off, it bounces off the wall. And if it comes back and hits you, it does give you the slime debuff. And it may or may not do a little bit of damage, but it's pretty negligible. The second ring I created was the Savage and Napalm ring combined. This adds AoE to your build. AoE damage is area of effect damage, so explosions. Whenever you blow up an enemy near any ore or rock, it harvests it. So what would normally take 3 to 5 hits on an iridium or radioactive ore, well, if you slay an enemy right next to it, it'll actually just mine it. It saves a bunch of time, a bunch of pickaxe swings, and at the same time, it gives you a speed buff, which you can then utilize on the newly cleared area that you just made. So with this build, your playstyle revolves around baiting enemies to ore dense areas, slaying them so it blows the ores up, and then using that speed buff to charge to the next part of the room or to the exit or to a ladder that you may have left behind. Considering that you get this really big speed buff that does stack with triple shot espresso and spicy eel, considering that you get it after every enemy slain, it has an extremely high uptime. So a large portion of the time spent in the Skull Caverns, you will be lightning fast, and you will be able to not only navigate the rooms really fast, but also be able to dodge and reposition very effectively. But when it comes down to it, especially the rings. What you pick to combine largely comes down to preference. There's a good chance that our playstyles are different to some degree. Therefore, I think the most important thing is to just select the most optimal gear that capitalizes on your personal playstyle. Okay, now we're going to get into weaponry. I do recommend having one of each of either the Galaxy or Infinity weapons, and eventually having them all enchanted. With any of the two being Crusader, I would recommend the Blade and the Gavel, and then with one of them being a Bug Killer. So for me personally, I use the Infinity Blade as my main weapon. This is just to hack and slash through all of the rooms and to kill things quickly. Crusader being on your main weapon is so helpful because you can rush mummy rooms, try to prioritize mummy rooms, and then you can kill mummies without having to use bombs anymore. And you also do 50% more damage on top of all the extra damage you already get. And I do recommend having the Bug Killer enchant on one weapon. This is because, especially in the challenge caverns, you'll be wanting to farm bug meat for magic bait, and then also utilizing bugs in certain positions where there's a lot of ore to quickly blow them up and keep moving, because it lets you kill the armored bugs. Normally those are kind of an obstacle, but if you have Bug Killer on one of your weapons, it turns these armored bugs into a method of clearing the room even faster. Again, while farming bug meat to create magic bait with eventually. So the Infinity Gavel or the Galaxy Gavel, which by the way is unlocked once you just get a Galaxy Sword, you can just go to Marlin in the Adventurers Guild. You can just buy it from him. So the reason the Infinity Gavel is so important is because if enemies are catching up to you really fast and you don't have time to turn around, or you're just very overwhelmed by things closing in on you, you can quickly tap your hotkey for where your Infinity Gavel is. Mine is set to number 3. So I tap 3 and then I do the special attack, which does a ground pound, and it does a 360-degree small knockback attack. This really helps with repositioning and getting things off your back. So if you're facing the opposite of an enemy and you ground pound, it shoots them backwards and it gives you time to actually turn around and have a chance to fight them face to face without taking extra damage. I do not recommend going through the Skull Caverns and especially the Challenge Caverns without this weapon. Okay, so for your boot slot, I highly recommend the Dragon Scale boots. If you don't have the Dragon Scale boots yet, which are obtained in the Volcano dungeon randomly from treasure chests within, then your boots with the highest defensive stat on them will suffice until you get the Dragon Scale boots. The reason I say the Dragon Scale boots are the best is because there aren't any big debuff threats. Therefore, immunity is not a high priority. Immunity only helps with reducing debuffs on you. Therefore, opting for max defense stat in the Skull Caverns is the most beneficial for survival. You'll just take less damage overall. Moving on, I highly recommend that you at least have an Iridium pickaxe, and then eventually enchant it with either the powerful enchantment or the swift enchantment. Personally, I think whichever one you get first is fine. The only other one you can get is efficient, but the efficiency enchantment is not that useful because you're going to be eating pretty frequently and that will passively restore your energy, so you wouldn't get as much value out of it, versus powerful or swift helping you clear rooms a lot quicker. Okay, so I was talking about the trinkets earlier, and I believe the best one for Skull Caverns, especially Challenge Caverns, is going to be the perfect ice rod. Now, you'll want to use an ice rod as soon as you get one, up until you do find a perfect one. This trinket effect offers extremely high utility and survival at the same time. So it can peel enemies off you, especially in clutch situations where you're running away, and it shoots backwards and just stuns enemies behind you so you can reposition and stuff. You can bait enemies into a certain area to hit them with the ice rod. It goes off by itself, but you do learn how to set it up. And once those enemies are locked down, you can just beat them up and make them explode on a certain ore that you wanted to mine at the same time. So this becomes efficient time-wise because you are killing enemies for money or supply drops. And you're also clearing an area, a small area of ore that would have otherwise taken an extra few seconds to mine out. And then you get the explosion from your ring to help you charge through the area that you just cleared, and it just becomes really smooth. And then in situations where you're extremely overwhelmed with enemies coming from each side, sometimes it'll kind of open up a path for you or lock down a certain area where you can just beat up the enemies that are locked down and rush out of that circle of enemies closing in on you. It's helped me and saved me so many times. So now we're going to look at what I believe to be the most optimal inventory for traversing the Skull Caverns, especially the Challenge Caverns. I'm just going to say, when I say Skull Caverns, I mean both. Yeah. So any bomb is great. Staircases are optional, but if you're trying to get to specific rooms like mummy rooms, like I like to do mummy rooms because mummies have great drops, and mixed with Crusader and all of my gear, you can just speed through mummy rooms and get a lot of good drops. So much so that it's not really worth it for me to spend too much time in other biome rooms. A few life elixirs because they heal you all the way. So if you're at 1% health, they're very cost effective because it gives you everything, all of your health back. Of course, as many triple shot espresso as you can hold. They give you a 4-minute speed buff, which is awesome. And it doesn't get removed by eating a speed increasing dish. And then I also recommend the spicy eel because it gives you more luck and speed, which are both very good for Skull Caverns. Luck because you find more ladders and get more rare drops, and speed because it just helps you navigate, reposition, and clear rooms even faster. Lastly, I just have my desert totem stack, which is really easy to build up from turning in Omni Geodes at the desert trader. And then I have my return scepter. And here are some substitutions in case you don't have access to these items yet. Instead of a return scepter, you can bring farm teleport totems. Instead of spicy eel, you could do pumpkin soup. However, spicy eel is a little bit easier to access once you are in the caverns a lot because you can just trade in rubies for spicy eel on any day of the week at the desert trader. It's super nice, and I always net spicy eel and I never run out. And then for the regular bombs that I bring, you can just bring in mega or cherry bombs or a combination of a couple of different kinds based on what you have more of or what you have more materials to make. And if you have the money to buy a lot of mega or normal bombs, just buy a lot of those. Now, if you have the funds for it, I recommend just stocking up at the dwarf in the mines for a few days of Skull Cavern traversing. They don't have to be in a row, but just so you have a nice stack going. Lastly, for this little part, I'll say that the staircases and bombs aren't necessarily needed. Really high-end or maxed out gear, they're a lot more useful because you're going to be targeting certain ore clusters and certain rooms, like the mummy room, which is what I do to make a lot of money and have, 900k plus weeks. All right, well, that's the video. Did you learn anything new from this video? If so, what did you learn? And what are you gonna try in the Skull Caverns? Also, what are some things that I could try? Because I love new ideas and challenges, so I'm very excited to hear what information y'all have for me. Well, this was a really fun one to make. I can't wait to do the 500 subscriber giveaway once we get there. But until then, I will see y'all in the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and peace. Ooh, crab cakes.